Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, August 30th. This is Gina Palma. Today we will continue to see isolated thunderstorms, which we are already seeing this morning over northeast Utah. These thunderstorms will occur over northeast Utah, eastern Idaho, and Wyoming. These thunderstorms will be fairly fast-moving and very isolated. We'll also see some breezy winds over eastern Idaho and Wyoming today, along with lower relative humidity. Otherwise, temperatures will be on the rise again Saturday and Sunday with very dry conditions, not only very low daytime relative humidity, but very poor overnight recoveries as well. We will see winds increase on Sunday over parts of Idaho and over southern and western Nevada. Over the last 24 hours, we saw a good amount of lightning over Utah into Idaho, Wyoming, and northeast Nevada. These thunderstorms were mainly on the drier side, producing less than 1/10 of an inch of precipitation, but in some of these brighter areas of yellows across the higher terrain of Utah and into parts of Idaho, we did see rainfall amounts up to or over 1/4 of an inch. Great Basin fire activity was light across the Great Basin yesterday. Over the last 2 weeks, we have seen precipitation only with these thunderstorms over the last few days. The heavier precipitation occurred over southwest Utah into parts of the Arizona Strip and far eastern Nevada a couple of days ago when the lightning first initiated. Otherwise, very dry conditions and well below normal for the time of year. ERCs have come down a little bit with the recent moisture and have dropped below the 70th to 80th percentile over far southern areas of the Great Basin, however still remain above the 80th to 90th percentile over the rest of Utah into Idaho and Wyoming, as again many of these areas did not see much precipitation with the recent lightning. Looking at some of our ERC charts, over eastern Idaho, ERCs are well above normal for the time of year, and this is representative of much of Idaho into Wyoming and far northern Utah. And then over the rest of Utah into southern areas of the Great Basin that did not see some of the rainfall from the thunderstorms, ERCs are setting new records for the time of year. So still very dry. Looking at our 10-hour fuel moisture, we have seen some improvements in some areas that did see the recent increase in humidity or some areas of rainfall. However, for the most part, 10-hour fuel moistures are very low across the Great Basin. Looking at our satellite image from this morning, we still have high pressure dominating the southern areas, which will continue to build north, bringing warmer and drier conditions for the weekend. We will continue with this westerly flow over northern areas of the Great Basin, and again, that will be responsible for the gusty winds today and again on Sunday. Looking at the weather pattern for later today, again, drier conditions will return to western and southern areas of the basin with still isolated thunderstorms over eastern Idaho, Wyoming, and northeastern Utah. Low fire potential or moderate fire potential is expected today with no high risk issued, as these thunderstorms will be fairly isolated. Looking at relative humidity today, we will see relative humidity drop back into the single digits in the far southern areas of the Great Basin and teens other areas with the exception of Idaho into eastern Wyoming where RHs will be a little bit higher. Today winds will be a little bit breezy over central and eastern Idaho into Wyoming with gusts mainly around 25 or possibly 30 miles per hour briefly this afternoon. Otherwise, moderate winds will continue in other areas of the basin. Looking at our weather conditions on Saturday, we will see that dryness continue to push across the Great Basin, pushing all those thunderstorms east of the region with hotter and drier weather region-wide. We do have no high risk across the Great Basin. However, relative humidity will be very low during the day, over the weekend, and also with poor humidity recoveries in many areas. Looking at our daytime relative humidity dropping into the single digits across most of Utah into Nevada, and even starting to drop into Idaho, with generally light to moderate southwest to west winds. On Sunday, that ridge of high pressure starts to expand and build over the Four Corners region. Therefore, we will see hotter temperatures again on Sunday with very dry conditions. No high risk issued as the thunderstorms will hold off for one more day. Relative humidity will again drop into the single digits in many areas or low teens in the far north. Winds may be picking up on Sunday as that area of high pressure builds north and an area of low pressure passes by to the north as well. We may see those winds increase over eastern Idaho into Wyoming, with more moderate winds further south into Nevada in the south and over western Nevada in the Sierra Front. 3-day amounts of precipitation, little if any precipitation. We may see a couple of thunderstorms again today, but most of those thunderstorms will produce very little precipitation with drier conditions through the weekend. As we go into early next week, we see the next return of moisture from the south. Therefore, thunderstorms will likely redevelop over the Arizona Strip, possibly southern Nevada and southern Utah by Monday. We do not have any high risk issued at this time, as these look to have some moisture associated with them, but we will continue to monitor these thunderstorms, as some areas could see some drier lightning briefly. As we move into Tuesday, that moisture spreads further north into Nevada and Utah, so we will see thunderstorms likely return to the southern half of the basin by Tuesday. Still no high risk issued, as this is pretty far out, but we will be watching some of these areas as lightning returns if they are on the drier side, especially after a very hot and dry weekend. As we get into Wednesday, we have an area of low pressure digging further south along the west coast, which will allow those southerly winds to pull that moisture up into Oregon and Idaho. So we will see thunderstorms almost region-wide on Wednesday, and then on Thursday as well, as that area of low pressure tracks to the east. We will likely be seeing a little bit more moisture by the middle of the week with these storms, but again, we will continue to monitor this to see if any areas need any high risk for the lightning on the drier side. The 7-day total precip for this return of moisture next week is visible here. Mainly in the higher terrain, we'll see some of those heavier thunderstorm potential, but for the most part, we'll see a mix of wet and dry storms. So again, we will continue to monitor that return of moisture for the potential of any high risk. As we go into the second week of September, from September 6th through the 12th, you can see warmer conditions continue, but we are seeing a better chance of above normal precipitation across the Great Basin. Therefore, we are expecting moisture to increase by the middle of the month. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.